Welcome to yet another Kame house with the 2MK team. We are, as usual, having a circle match priority lobby O2, US East Coast O2. Neither stays on. DBFZ Lounge. Last week there were changes across the board, many of which had some interesting effects on character game plans. And we only barely scratched the surface in terms of exploring what game plan changes are likely to come up for some characters. Expect to see more this week. Discussion's probably likely to be a bit lighter as we are trying to figure out exactly what is going on in the first place. Watch particularly for changes to Android 21 as her absorption ability now works differently. And that is probably the thing going to make the most change to today's lineup.
Time to begin the match!
戦いの感が鈍ってるな。クリリンさん、引退しても力は衰えていないな。僕も見習わなくちゃ。
Get ready for a Dragon Ball Rumble!
Though additional armor doesn't necessarily mean that much against Trunks, especially with Trunks' new changes. It is, however, helpful against any assists, especially now that the assists have been changed by Titan. The difficulty in choosing the right moment to get out of that situation. When one only has one bar of meter, can't even use a super to get out of that as easily, though some characters can do dash forward into super, and that dash gives them enough to make the switch. So if choosing to preserve the Sparking Blast for One herself, as you have to deal with two characters that are quite good at dealing with range. Fortunately, she has a really good confirm from far away. And the main problem here being keeping enough health up.
Get ready for a Dragon Ball Rumble!
油断してたぞ。なめんじゃねえ。どうした。なめんじゃねえ。終わりじゃねえか。どうした。こっちだ。ここか。こっちだ。
点数をつけるとすれば、
トラックさんだ。まだまだ。
やめるなよ。後悔するなよ。点数をつけるとすれば、
どうした
30点ってところだ。そこだ。やめるなよ。さあ、ちょっと笑ってんな。ファイナルステージ。今度は俺が相手です。クリリン点数をつけるとすれば、目玉だ。そこか。点数をつけるとすれば、これでも食らえ。ミスターまたいな。この点数するな。
トラックス。いっぱい飛ばすぞ。
こいつはハンドだ。
Clear of course fights his way back, but Vegeta and Bardock make a team between their assist and actual regular attacks. He's generally going to have some trouble with. So here we see the force of the Sparking, which is currently already active apparently. But Vegeta is quick before he can get all the way down, meaning that this is in fact going to be all Bardock, which is much harder.
スーパーサイヤ人の壁、その先を俺はさらに超えてしまった。頼ってばかりはいられない。これからも俺のこの手で勝つんだ。 yourself for the coming battle! Get ready! Fight!
楽しめそうだ。楽しめそうだ。どこへ行って死ね。どこへ行く。
While he continues to have the same strength and drift, he uses movement for vanishes in a lot more situations with a lot bigger payoff than many other characters. As most of the time Brawly's aim is more so to get close to you and then start his mix-ups than it is specifically about any long combo or specific special type of damage. However, with the increased damage on the Vanish, even this is starting to help him as a long-term goal. As he's also good at getting players to very low health without them really being sure that they can afford to switch out.
所詮貴様がいくら強くなろうと無駄なのだ。どうしたのだ、さっきまでの勢いは。 笑えよ。
It's time to face your opponent! Get ready! Let's go!
Moving to level 3 is a good way to get knockdown pressure on a character who can't easily be gotten rid of by Bardock in Fixie. It does not work out, but it's still definitely a tactic specifically set out to do, even considering the meter cost, given that one had already gotten him to the corner. And this is mostly a matter of if Vegeta can use Bardock as an assist to keep Krillin out. Krillin has very little ability to deal with Vegeta at the mid-range, despite his actual strong mid-range attacks in most cases. This is primarily because Vegeta can either get under or through a ton of things that Krillin wants to do. However, without the Bardock assist timing, it's difficult to hold Krillin in the correct space long enough to actually get the advantage. But the potentially accidental mix-up stays Vegeta and means that Bardock can now switch in to try to deal with his grandson. Bardock is able to play a fairly reasonable game against Gohan, but a lot of it relies on being able to time the Dragon Rush, meaning that more meter on Gohan's side greatly increases the risk he plays. However, Bardock does have a lot of really good longer range punishes for Gohan's relatively slower zoning tools, and If you can get the timing for the Dragon Rush correctly, will normally manage to hold the position, letting him play a very strong Footsie's game against Gohan in general.
Brace yourself for the coming battle! It's all or nothing! Let's go!
Broly goes for the offense, but the opening gambit does not pay off here. Fortunately, he doesn't suffer that much as a character from being cornered by Trunks as long as he can get his barrier up as we've just seen. The hard part is maneuvering out of Trunks' zone of control in time to make it work for him. Without it, we end up back here. Krillin is not really a character that Broly deals with super well. Not because he can't actually be zoned, well, not because Krillin can actually zone him, but because Krillin's specific methods of moving in along with certain assists mean that Broly doesn't necessarily get to start up his own stuff as easily. Basically, Broly relies quite a lot on being able to land certain combos and start things from the ground, whereas Krillin's zoning can be done from the air in a way that will prevent him getting any damage. Boo similarly doesn't deal with chunks all that well, and Bardock is only slightly better, but he can keep up once Vegeta is still available, meaning that it's not so bad to bring in Bardock against chunks if you think you're going to be able to convert. It's mostly a matter of picking your assist timings to keep control of the situation, and either keep up your pressure or set up scramble situations that suit you. Once the opponent is cornered, Bardock can mostly manage on his own, but he will often need some help in the sense of calling in the assist if the corner guard team does not go as well as he prefers. Even without meter, Vegeta can keep filling out as long as his assists are active. And since Vegeta can stall relatively long in terms of keeping assists in, or ready, that is, he doesn't generally have a whole lot of trouble there unless Krillin gets in position to call an assist that can hit him from below. While this is possible in this team, it's more likely that those assists will collide and there won't be any benefit. Ooh, but without the blue assist. As always, this sort of thing really is about choosing those moments for assists. Your entire tactical play for your team often has to hinge on it in any advantageous or scramble situation. On defense, this ability has been heavily reduced in the game currently, and only a few people will really be able to do it in any useful way, but even if you do not understand how to use your assist to keep up pressure, you really have to think of and find that situation where they are usable as a move, and hopefully it not be a situation that recurs too often.
Get ready for a Dragon Ball Rumble! Ready?
Kame is actually fairly susceptible to Cell's Rolling Crush, as he tends to stand at the range where it really helps Cell to use this move, and doesn't really have a lot of ways to deal with the timing that comes up when Cell walks forward. Insistent, simple approaching can help Cell get a lot on Kame. And there's the use of the meter for the switch in. After all, there was quite enough meter built up for the purpose. Saving Cell for a little bit later. And of course, the increased damage to Vanish, making that an actual kill, whereas I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have been before. With no Krillin to deal with, Cell has the same advantages more or less as Bardock. He's good at keeping Gohan and Trunks from doing too much without running the risk of him Dragon Rushing or punishing them from instantly far away. The difference being that he's not able to go foot speed as well as Bardock in this matchup, as he doesn't have as many safe-ish moves across space while still being confusing. Cells are a little linear, meaning that it's not too hard to keep up with him. If he makes a mistake, he's much more likely to die than Bardock is, but this is only at the beginner level, before the player has managed to learn all of Bardock's different movements and how they should be punished.
Brace yourself for the coming battle! Get ready!
Kid Buu really wants to get out of this situation, for the most part because Trunks will just sit there and defend himself, and Kid Buu has a lot of trouble getting in against a character with such a wide 2H. Vegeta is generally the better option for handling this, or Bardock in with Vegeta as the backup. However, if you can get decently through this with Kid Buu as being demonstrated, you have a huge advantage, as it can force the opponent to switch, meaning that if you can keep that up, and Kid Buu is able to fight off characters who he's better at fighting, it will be much harder for Trunks later on in the match, as he'll be facing a combination of characters that he's specifically weaker to. This is true whether or not you actually manage to kill off characters like Gohan and Krillin, because they just don't offer that much support to Trunks in doing exactly what he normally does. Trunks normally handles the beginning to build up the meter, as he's very good at doing this without breaking himself open. In fact, as you're seeing happen now. But once pushed into this situation against his father, he's really very stressed by the fact that Vegeta generally just moves faster. Or rather, his shorter buttons mean he recovers faster and can cause more problems. Gohan, with his invincible moves, usually has a better time of it. And Vegeta does have to be careful at least when he goes in. Case in point. But with Gohan low on health and Bardock in against the characters he's most able to deal with for the most part, other than Gohan himself, we are going to see some bullying going on here. Krillin is a little bit harder to land the Dragon Rush on, as he has more options for getting out of the way and forcing the player to actually play with both the air and the ground game. He's only here for being enough to get through. And quite equal to Kid Buu's ability. So unfortunately, this match was not quite lost at the tactical level, but a little bit hard to pull through at the end. As we always point out, it's very important to understand the strength of your team and their strategy, even if you can't always execute it. Since when your opponent flinches or makes a mistake, the conversion of your effort is going to depend a lot on what's on your mind at the time.
Showdown is about to begin!
虫けらが死にに来たか。
初めから全力でかかってくるんだな。
食事
もう終わりか。無駄な何なんだ。
終わらせてやる。
楽しめそうだ。
この攻撃なら
虫けらが
これでも食らえぞ。
こんなこともできるのよ。そこでときめき。そこで
この攻撃ならやってみせる。生きた。
よっそ
しまった。
こで貫いて。そこで手と強気。見せてあげる。
プレゼントだ。
なんのしまった。なんの
Received a good timing for backdashes from Broly in this particular matchup, and a certain amount of control coming out of that entire process. His long reach versus Krillin's general function means that he can afford to backdash out of a lot of things, especially when Krillin hasn't got enough meter to punish him for it. If anything, the fault there was going a little too hard without the use of Android 18 assist to cover him.
Krillin さん、引退しても力は衰えていないな。僕も見習わなくちゃ。
It's time to face your opponent!
Joe also just generally doesn't deal that well with Broly. He can in fact get into the air and get started, but Broly tends to either arm through this or not do too much damage, so you immediately see a switch from both sides. Neither player really wants to deal with that matchup in that situation, as Kid Buu tends to avoid most of this team's assists, making him relatively immune to standard throw, and Kid Buu just doesn't do well enough against Broly to justify staying in. That said, with that shift, Kid Buu is back, and with reasonably good reason to be back. It especially helps that now that we are playing at the longer range, Kid Buu can manage to keep position without having to worry as much about a Broly switch in, as he can mostly react to that, forcing the call in of 21 instead, and therefore a similar switch to Broly, so Bardock. From here, it's probably going to come down to who can manage to open the other up more, and who's willing to use rich assists. Really an interesting choice, given that Vegeta's range means that he does have some problems against his character. Not a lot of them, but she can tend to deal with a lot of things, and because she tends to be able to fight without needing to try to get in, she'll often be on guard for the things she wants to do. Her enviably long-range low also makes it difficult for him to get anything started, but Vegeta uses his maximum power to get rid of 21 and start to shift the situation a bit more. Well, this one was arduous, and at the end, no one ends up with any actual advantage, but the Flash Vanish intervening for the finish.
暇つぶしにはなったな。私の本気をここまで引き出すとは。だが全力はこんなものではないぞ。
Time to begin the match! 初めから全力でかかってくるんだな。
まずお前から血祭りにあげてやる。
食事の時間？
行くぞ。プレゼントだ。
登場ね。よっはっ。させない。エリア。エリア。
The good timing of the use of that move has pushed out Gohan into the correct position even with the lower health. He just has to manage to get out now. And in this case, it's fine to get out this way, as Krillin is not really that afraid of breakthrough when his own life is not low. The addition of Krillin to a team changes the dynamics of quite a few things, purely because he can make that change and decision. If Krillin's life has not fallen all that far yet, is quite able to tank his way through a lot of stuff, knowing that the opponent will eventually have to fling him far enough away that he can send him himself. When his health starts to get lower to the point where he could be killed in one combo, you generally want to try to get him out and rely on the rest of your team once again. But good strategy overall here, putting Trunks back in to deal with the same situation, and putting Cell low enough on health that Krillin now has a chance to finish him off, meaning the opponent can't play as riskily. So we see the probably obvious other change in tactics, but by now we've reached a good point for on the Rabbit side, as it's relatively difficult for Broly to manage this in terms of finishing him off entirely. Krillin can just jump straight up out of a lot of things, and doesn't have to worry about losing too many options by doing so the way, for example, about Gohan does. But that cover from Android 21 helps Cell get into position and change himself out of the corner, removing almost all of the risks involved in the current play. Fortunately, that was about Gohan's switch, meaning that this is possible. Is he going to get over? This doesn't matter, in fact. But missed execution, and it still pays off. The task now brought this down to a relatively difficult situation for on the Rabbit side, even though Kame still has enough health. Fortunately for him, Duo goes in with Broly, who again doesn't really tend to beat Krillin that well by going in, at least while going in without cover. That was an almost perfect throw there. But Cell is not going to benefit that much from this unless he can get into the right space and go for the rolling crush. That is a stronger option there, since he can do that move coming downward and the move has been buffed, in at least certain forms that have been buffed. It's a little easier to deal with Krillin in those positions. She does still have absorbed the flash, so we might get a combo or two out of this, but she also doesn't have easy to land supers, meaning that the super meter, this is not the character who wants to be left with super meter on. Key gauge here. We're supposed to call it. She has managed to get rid of Trunks though, and it's going to come down to that big problem. However, Krillin is in a big problem here himself, as there are definitely going to be enough vanishes to finish him off, and the entire game just becomes, how do I manage to move enough to not get clipped like that? If Krillin had had more health, it would have been difficult for 18 to do this even if she kept going that way, as there's really few ways for her to open him up, other than coming straight at his face.
同じバイオ人造人間でも性能が違うのよ。
Seems so far, therefore, that I can tell you specifically whether or not the team is enjoying the changes, but as an analytical perspective, there doesn't seem to be any change that has been made that makes life harder in any specific terrible way. In other words, most of the changes we can see so far have been to consistency either of game plan or of actual moves. There's stuff that your opponent shouldn't have been doing anyway, that you are just now able to make sure that they don't want to do a bit more cleanly. But this doesn't really require too much change to anything you're going to do. It's just effectively good news. The team still must get used to quite a lot in terms of both the execution of their things and the tactics involved, as, quite interestingly, this game has the two tied quite close together. In many other games, it's just a question of can you execute this or not. There's no real requirement within tactics to the execution, except in the sense of I can't execute this, therefore I can't use this tactic at all. This game requires a lot of clarity in the consistency of things and what you're likely to want to do, but without reducing terribly your actual options. You can always hurt the opponent. The question is, can you hurt them in a way that puts them in the position you want? And if not, you often have to retreat a little more or play a little differently. Most importantly, when you've learned how to do certain things with your assists, recognizing the situation and quickly executing the correct option in that situation becomes much more important. That is in fact quite a lot of damage. Knowing that Kidney can walk back out of that, and that you can't really backdash away from him. This is probably not going to kill, but it is a good shot. And does force some behaviors later, as Cell will not have enough health even if he goes out to do a certain type of challenge anymore. However, we do have Brawly at full meter, meaning that even if it's not easy to finish things, he can still move around. A lot of his mobility is granted, as mentioned, by his ability to vanish into certain situations and things like that. That looks a lot easier to get out of than it is because there's a lot of timing involved. You want to get out of the way of the explosion, but it can't just be done immediately. In this case, therefore, the proper reaction is, in fact, to use that sparking there, save Brawly's health, and relatively reset the situation to where it was before, making sure that you have to put up with him. He still has enough meter, so you don't want to lose him. If the meter was completely gone, you might not be so interested in saving Brawly with the sparking specifically. But with that strong meter backup, and a constant use of assists, this is basically an uphill battle to the most extreme degree possible in this game, as Kid Buu really just doesn't upset Broly that much. That part of the mix-up is not as real, but when your assists are not active yet, the recovery is coverable by a lot of things, and a lower health opponent really can't risk taking a ton of actions there. Overall, therefore, high awareness and lots of maneuvering makes Broly MVP for this match.
Should be a great fight. 初めから全力でかかってくるんだな。
登場ね。
決めろ。
まだ貫いて。まだ貫いて。あらあら。覚悟の味はどうかしら。終わりじゃない。これで。こっち。まだ。
Oh, so perfectly done. Choosing Cell as the assist in that situation would in fact have been safer, but not anywhere near as effective or rewarding. And another gutsy move. Unfortunately, Cell ends up a little bit too close and Krillin gets some damage off it. Confidence and understanding in your character, the willingness to do those sorts of things. As you know, the speed of the game generally has increased quite a lot over the years that we've been playing this game. Even considering how seldom we relatively play. While the bots do have a relatively strong effect in terms of being able to react to situations, a lot of the perspectives of how to set up the situation you want comes from creativity of and understanding of the characters. Broly does not manage to get his armor up in time, but does vanish out of the corner. His other armor is not sufficient to keep him from getting juggled there. Okay, that's actually not that surprising, but it is an interaction that one might not have usually. I am not sure what just happened. Did Broly manage to not pick up the sending? That actually might have been a problem for the wolf in that it would have been relatively misleading, but maybe he put the damage at the same time. And there you see the triple threat. Trunks being able to set up that particular amount of damage in that way, as long as his two teammates are alive. Most cohesive teams have some form of this, but a lot of them happen at times where you wouldn't expect it. There are some that can only confirm off stray hits into super, some that can only confirm from pressure, opening up the opponent into super, and some that have entirely specialized ways of doing the timing for their team supers, meaning you have to learn all of this every time you change your character even once.
Get ready for a Dragon Ball Rumble! Are you ready? Let's go! Counter!
That choice was a good one in terms of getting Gohan back to the ground, but it did affect his amount of available meter. And leaves him facing off with Vegeta, making this really hard in the longer sense, simply because he has to outmaneuver a character that can keep him out almost indefinitely. Fortunately, our Vegeta is more interested in getting in. Oh, no, there we go. You have to be able and willing to play a certain level of lane with Vegeta Blue in order to get the real drop on Gohan. But a Vegeta Blue player is not a master of playing lane just yet, so the situation shifts around in this case. Yet the situation continues in a very useful way, as this is probably the worst situation for Krillin, period. He can zone both these characters singly, individually, but not so easily when they're together. Mainly because the only thing either of them needs is a way to poke at Krillin without opening themselves up to something. And just having the assist is enough to set this up, forcing Krillin to play on the offensive. Fortunately for him there, no 2H on reaction to it, and he should therefore be able to close this out, even with some strong timing of attacks from Blue. Note that even now, he still doesn't actually use up so much meter that this is going to be a problem. However, we do have that other change, well, although I'm not really too familiar with it, honestly, kicking in for the first time in a way that we could really see making a difference to a match. Specifically that when you use meter, you have a period after which where your meter gain is lessened, meaning that Krillin becomes unable to do his level 3 be close to being able to do another, and dash forward into one. To be fair, we're not really sure whether or not that was happening before, to the level that would have changed that matchup in this particular fight, but it is something you're definitely going to have to think about, because even if it was, the time has definitely been extended in some way, and possibly the effect has been shifted. This is why it helps for meter-hungry characters like Bardock and Brawly, for example, to also have moves with longer, slower animations and long knockdowns, as they stretch out that time before the character is able to get back to the point of being able to gain meter.
It's all or nothing. Fight it out.
That was a very well-spaced air dash from Trunks there. And perfect in the application of that pressure. Cell taking advantage of Adult Gohan's relative groundedness. Not so able to do so with Krillin, but and a perfect push there. But now that Brawly has enough armor up, Krillin's life becomes a little harder, forcing him to go on the offense as you've just seen, and open the space for Brawly to manage to get out again. Not only does he get out, he brings in a character with a ton of health. But interestingly, Krillin has enough room to avoid footsies that getting in on 18 is not too difficult for him. So with that part of this over with, this is mostly going to come down to whether or not Sparking is activated now or later. And manages to get out without having to activate the Sparking, meaning that Brawly is now able to act as the assist, giving Cell a lot of room to maneuver, and apparently a kill. Brawly acting as assist against these two is a very useful thing, because it allows Cell to play a form of the air game that is not easily beaten. Adult Gohan and Trunks are sitting slightly too linear to do this easily, but the sparking is not enough to save in this case. Brawly does, however, get to keep it on his coming in. Not super helpful in the long term. We don't expect this to make like the big difference to the match in terms of making it possible to win at this point, but still good execution of the overall game plan.
のブロリーを俺が倒したのか。これで終わった。ありがとうみんな。
Get ready for a Dragon Ball Rumble! Are you ready?
As is customary, we will be having a shorter stream due to the lighter number of players, therefore, consider the stamina. In general, 90 minutes is the duration that anyone spends playing for our streams. There's a lot of the time we're mostly trying to learn and not test endurance. Fortunately, in this case, Vegeta got cornered in time, but pushing him back out of the corner means that it's a difficult decision to be made now. Does one need to switch Vegeta back out or not? Is there enough benefit to it? It looks like Vegeta will be switched out this time. But Trunks can definitely handle Bardock. And the relatively linear attack from Vegeta and Goku means that Bardock isn't necessarily going to get to him opened up as a result of anything. So, honestly, as much as it is kind of rough to say it that specific way because there's no way to know for sure what would have happened, it might have been better to keep Vegeta in, as Trunks simply had too much control of the match otherwise, and was most likely not going to manage to kill Vegeta from there. From here it's going to be a relatively hard battle to get back to the same tactical position, where there's a chance of Vegeta finishing Trunks up. But it's not impossible. It's just a question of can he do it without losing Broly, without losing Bardock, sorry. I don't like switching them up for this. And the fake out. Because of the way this game's attacks work, the shimmy is a bit more complicated than most other games. Specifically that you can walk away and then do the Dragon Rush, your opponent could still almost always tech it, and they're not going to hit the Dragon Rush button themselves in the same situation on wake up. The shimmy therefore being more of a jump out or switch situation most of the time. This is a lot of use of meter. Is it worth it? Probably yes, as Vegeta can now use his Sparking if need be. To enhance his ability to fight back overall. But timing turned out a little weird there. It's important to understand Once you reach this level of play, the next thing is mostly about knowing your sparking blast cancels. Not necessarily because you have to be able to do big damage with them, but simply because you don't really want to go back to neutral when you're at that health at all. Therefore, it's fine if you want to not use the sparking until you feel you have a chance to open the opponent up, because it's probably not going to save you anyway. But if you don't know how to do that, then you're not really benefiting by holding on to it. Previously, you would have noted all of the team just activating the sparking most of the time on being knocked down or just jumping into the air and doing it. This wasn't specifically because it was a hugely beneficial thing to do, but that there just wasn't enough practice done on the actual sparking style cancels to be assured to not end up in a scramble or negative situation after it. When you're down to one character, scrambles are obviously much more dangerous as you have no assist to call.
It's all or nothing.
Raleigh is a character that has a simple but odd way of dealing with people getting away from him. He actually can, in a lot of situations, call cell assist while doing his own Dragon Rush. The reason this works is because the opponent cannot then easily backdash out of both things. Ooh, I love that conversion. This does not work as well for 21 because the opponent is more likely to be hitting buttons, as you see here, meaning that while they will often get hit by cell, it's not the same thing. She can, however, use it to get certain setups relative to Vanish in much the same way. It's just that obviously this costs more meter and you don't want to just be doing this whenever. The execution therefore comes in learning the timing to call the Vanish that then also does the correct thing in that space and time. But use the meter to pull in cell, having not managed to get enough of an advantage against Trunks thus far. Cell does need more opportunity to do this, but it looks like he's not going to immediately get it that easily. But Raleigh's back in, and that's not enough reason to switch out Krillin just yet, as Raleigh doesn't have any meter, and therefore is extremely limited in his mobility. Every time you can get Raleigh to attempt a Vanish in order to build up in phase and still miss, means he's back to having said limited mobility. Similarly, the aforementioned ways of opening the opponent up with 21 that require both the Vanish and the use of the Cell Assist makes it difficult if Raleigh manages to get pushed out without him either getting enough damage or being able to build up enough meter through other methods that he then doesn't use. Sometimes you have to actually plan your flow around the opponent looking for the Vanish from Raleigh, but it never coming, allowing him to build up a lot of meter in certain situations for his teammates to use. That was definitely a brilliant damage to go for there. It comes from basically knowing that the opponent does not want to use a level 3 up from there, and Krillin can otherwise not easily punish or mess with Cell for trying that move. At least not while assists are active as possibles. But this is now the hard part. The trickier assist is gone, leaving us with mostly just linear footsies that have to be played against the opposing team that has all of this. And unfortunately, Krillin is the character least affected by that. In other words, if you get rid of Krillin, it's really not that helpful yet. Broly is able in this case to build up some meter and maybe get something like this. And that perfect spacing. The timing's also working out here. But the gutsy uppercut. And the footsies. Going for the Dragon Rush in that situation is useful because you then get to spend the meter again immediately. But you don't generally want your opponent to have the ability to sit too long, as once again both of these characters have good linear approach things, meaning you could run in, you could jump halfway, and use your assist to prevent the anti-air.
大人になって一緒に戦うなんてなんだか不思議な感じですね。
It's time to face your opponent! Get ready! Go!
And the reverse of the prior. Gohan does have an easy kill situation from there. Meaning there wasn't really that many ways out of it. Either you went for the sparking and could be beaten on reaction somewhat, or you didn't.
今度は俺が相手だ。
The choice of timing for the overhead though. But with that too, Trunks facing two characters that he can handle, and a desperate wish to get rid of Krillin before Trunks can defeat either of those characters, as Krillin has a bit harder time of doing it. Looks like Trunks is coming out on top today though. Meaning that Krillin is probably safe and doesn't have to go through all that much. While he's not the best character to go up against Kid Buu with, it's mostly going to come down in this case to when the sparking is activated and the use of Kid Buu's meter. Unconventional movement is more likely to be helpful here than just basically pressure or trying to get in, as Krillin doesn't actually do all that well with unconventional movement. In short, Kid Buu can spend some time not specifically trying to do anything, and that was the most ridiculous interaction. Okay then. So apparently, the timing of the sparking was such that the active frames of Kid Buu's super missed. I suppose that probably does have very few active frames.
The outcome of this fight is anybody's guess!
As mentioned before, we are not really intending to proceed much longer. Most likely closing up in 2 or so more matches, depending on the length of them, of course.
遊びは終わりだ。
The timing on barrier. But 2H is ready for it this time, and that is the finish, almost certain. Kame has a fairly heavy advantage here, but 18 does have a couple things she could have done. And I was able to change that line in the middle of the move.
18号さんの仲間か。へへ、ちょっとは様になったかな。
So far this week, in terms of bot development, there has been no bot development. This of course actually means that there will be no disc guidance tomorrow, and as we don't specifically have any other plan, probably no fighting game related stream. So you can look forward to something more substantial next week instead. That said, next week Monday we are almost certainly going to, as usual, have another battle lounge. There hasn't been a lot of news coming out of Capcom lately. We were not expecting anything too strange, but we also expected at some point, seeing if they are releasing any characters this year earlier on. Generally they're not that much out of their timing. Aside from the fact normally they've released 2 characters by now, but if you go by just skipping one of them, then they're still technically on time. So we'll see if we get anything at all, or if they're shifting their business model in some way that we're not aware of yet. This week we did in fact have the Tuesday train. Most of the data we got from that indicates that we may not have one next week. But as always, you can check out every announcement of either stream or no stream around 7 Eastern on our Twitter, _MK_FGC. As we often surprise ourselves with whether or not a stream goes again, simply because arranging a whole team of people has some hiccups. And catch. If you want to get any of the bots we've been talking about, particularly the DBFZ ones, you can find those at 2-mk.org/DBFZ-bots. Eunice bots with 5-unit set be found under Eunice-bots, and Street Fighter 5 bots under SF5-bots. We do not currently make bots for other games, hoping maybe to get some in for Guilty Gear eventually. But if you do try them out, or have any wish to contact us regarding them, you can do that through the aforementioned Twitter, or through the contact page at 2-mk.org. Tonight though, we are coming to an early close of the Kame House. This is Viridian, along with Team 2MK. Good luck with your training, and good night everyone.
もっと強くならなければまだ見ぬ敵を倒すために